He never rented a warehouse, never hired a shipping team, never bought a single unit of inventory. Not one box, not one package, not one product ever passed through his hands. And yet, by the time he was 24 years old, this college dropout had quietly built a business empire worth $400 million. This is the story of how he did it. And more importantly, why almost nobody talks about how it actually worked. Let's go back to the beginning. His name is Kyle, and at 19, he was doing what a lot of 19-year-olds do. He was sitting in a dorm room, staring at his laptop, failing his intro to economics class, and completely obsessed with one question. Why do some people make money while they sleep, and everyone else just trades hours for dollars? That question haunted him. It kept him up at night, and it eventually became the reason he dropped out. His professors thought he was throwing his life away. His parents were furious. But Kyle had already discovered something. Something small. Something that most people walk right past without ever noticing. He had discovered the gap. Here's what the gap is. When you buy a product on Amazon or on some random website or through a social media ad, you assume there's a warehouse somewhere. You assume someone packed that box. You assume there's a whole operation behind it. But sometimes there isn't. Sometimes the person who sold you that product never even saw it. They just connected you to someone who had it, and they kept the difference in price. That's dropshipping at its most basic level. Kyle knew that. Everyone knows that. But what Kyle understood that almost no one else did was that the real money isn't in the product. The real money is in the system around the product. So while other dropshippers were out here selling cheap phone cases and kitchen gadgets and hoping for a 5-star review, Kyle was building something completely different. He was building infrastructure. He called it his invisible supply chain. And here's how it worked. Step 1. He didn't pick random products. He spent 3 months doing nothing but analyzing return rates, complaint data, and supplier reliability across thousands of product categories. He was looking for what he called the sweet spot. Products with high perceived value, low return rates, and suppliers desperate enough to offer favorable terms. He found it in home goods, specifically mid-range furniture and lighting, stuff that costs between $200 and $800. Not cheap impulse buys. Not luxury items. That middle zone where people are willing to pay real money but aren't doing a ton of comparison shopping. Step 2. He built relationships. Real ones. He flew to 3 different manufacturing hubs. He sat across tables from suppliers. He learned their pain points. He offered them something most dropshippers never do: consistency. He promised volume and reliable payment schedules. In exchange, they gave him priority fulfillment, better margins, and private labeling. His brand, their warehouse. His customers never knew the difference. Step 3. And this is where it gets brilliant. He didn't build one store. He built a network of 11 different branded storefronts, each one targeting a completely different customer demographic. One brand felt like a high-end boutique. Another looked like a budget family store. Another was positioned for urban apartment dwellers. Same suppliers in the back end. Completely different faces to the world. This is called brand architecture. And it meant that when one market softened, the others picked up the slack. He had diversified without diversifying his operations at all. But here's the move that actually took him from 6 figures to 9. Paid traffic. Kyle understood paid advertising the way a chess grandmaster understands the board. He hired a team of media buyers and spent 6 months testing ads on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and eventually TikTok. He treated every dollar of ad spend like a science experiment. What's the cost per click? What's the conversion rate on this landing page? What happens if we change the headline? What happens if we target a different age group? He was relentless, obsessive, And slowly, his return on ad spend started climbing. $2 back for every $1 spent. Then $3, then $4.50. At $4.50 ROAS, you don't need a warehouse. You just need to keep the machine running. By the time Kyle was 22, he was doing $2 million a month in revenue. By 23, that number had tripled. And by 24, his network of storefronts had processed over $400 million in total sales. Let that sink in. $400 million. And at no point did he ever see, touch, pack, or ship a single product. Now here's the part of the story that people always want to skip over, because it wasn't all clean. There were chargebacks. There were suppliers who ghosted him during peak season. There were months where a Facebook algorithm change torched his ad performance overnight and wiped out 6 figures in expected revenue in a single week. There were legal issues around return policies. There were customer complaints that blew up on social media. Running an invisible empire doesn't mean running a painless one. It just means the pain looks different. But Kyle had built systems for that too. Customer service teams, legal counsel on retainer, backup suppliers for every primary supplier, redundancy baked into every layer of the operation. He treated problems the same way he treated products. Find the gap, build a system, eliminate the friction. So what's the actual lesson here? It's not that dropshipping is a magic money printer. Most dropshippers fail within 6 months. The lesson is that Kyle didn't think like a seller. He thought like an architect. He wasn't asking what product can I sell. He was asking what system can I build that sells products forever without needing me in the room. That shift in thinking, from operator to architect, is the difference between making money and building wealth. And Kyle figured that out at 19. Sitting in a dorm room, failing economics. His professor gave him an F. The market gave him $400 million. If this story hit different, subscribe. Because we find the people who figured out the game before everyone else. And we break down exactly how they did it.